Welcome to Backyard Bows. Hey, welcome to Backyard Bows. I'm Brandon, and man, welcome to 2023. There is so much that we have in the works. I'm so excited. We have a tons of bows already in our lineup. The ATA show's next weekend. I'm sure there's going to be more and more stuff that's going to be put out, and we're going to get after it. So I'll start off by saying, if you don't know, we're not a paid affiliate of any bow company. Every bow company, and I'm mostly talking about the ones that send us stuff, I think it's at your own risk is kind of my policy. It's like send us your best product because we're going to give everything a fair assessment. And I think one of those companies that I've always thought like, man, they're so willing to send me anything that they put out. And I think it just speaks volumes for the confidence that they have in the quality of their product is Darton. Darton has sent me everything in a timely manner, man. Something comes out, they're like, hey, Brandon, do you want to review this? And I love that. Everything has an equal playing field, and you don't know what I'm going to fucking say. So I think, in a sense, it's a little bit of a risk. But I always tell people beforehand, if they're going to send us some, hey, we're going to give it an honest assessment, just so you know. But I love Corey, who I've dealt with, the rep from Darton. He's been awesome, answers all my questions. We have great conversations about each bow beforehand, and I'm going to say this is kind of Darton's speed bow. So we got the Prelude 32, whole new bow. I think the only thing that they kept was the E system. The cams and the cams are a little bit different, but the E system is kind of what they brought over from the Spectre E. Super cool bow, nice speeds, and I think this is, before we, really shoot it, I'm going to say that this is kind of, their most complete bow to date. This is kind of what they've been working on and kind of tweaking things here and there to give us this Prelude. So the specs, you got 32 inches axle to axle, you got a 6-inch brace height, 4.9 pounds, all dressed up. It's actually a little bit on the heavier side, and it's pretty solid in hand, which, as you know, I like a solid bow with some good substance to it. And man, this one does with that 775 aluminum riser. So it's nice and thick, it's solid, 40-pound draw weight all the way up to 80 with 10-pound fluctuation. You got 27 to 30 and a half with 80% let off. And as you know, from the Veracity, they have these new let off adjustments. They're these little kind of backboards that go on there. There's 3 different let off adjustments, 3 for top, 3 for bottom, and it pretty much just adds 2 pounds to your holding weight. So, so as I just mentioned, you got the 775 aluminum riser, which is the most durable riser you can get with the least amount of flex. But as you know, everything, and we talk about this a lot, there's a give and take with almost everything. So yes, you have the most solid riser, the littlest amount of flex, but with this aluminum, they say, obviously it's a little bit heavier, but it also has a little bit of vibration in it. So if you look in the riser, these little holes all over, kind of bored out all over the riser, the limb pockets, and I think that's to kind of cut down on weight a little bit, because with this aluminum, you kind of get heavier and heavier. Something else that they did, which we've seen on a couple different bows, is kind of this stabilizer placed right here at the bottom that comes off. You can actually remove it, put another stabilizer down there. I love Darton, and I'm sitting on the phone with him like, hey, what is the stabilizer called? And he's like, I don't know, it's there's the stabilizer. It's like, okay, every company, they'll rename and name every year all these little pieces to make it seem like it's so new, but really it's just another stabilizer. I love that about Darton. They're simple, to the point, and I love the Spectre E with this E system and the cams that were on it. I think it was one of the best holding bows that we've had from last year, kind of looking back, and we'll go over all that in a second. But the riser, I think another point of the riser that I want to point out is they've kind of completed their grip. So with the Spectre E, man, they went with the most plain, solid, nice, thick block. I feel like they couldn't come up their mind with what they want to do with it, so they just put that on there. And then the Veracity had a little bit better shape to it, and now we have a really refined grip, and I think this is probably what they're going to go with, moving forward. But I like that a lot. I like this grip more than the other ones a bunch. So, so they have a dampener right on the end of their string stop. If you watch my videos, I think that's one of the best placed dampeners on a bow. They got an integrated rest on the back side. They got the 2 burger holes for your rest, and then they have these new cable guards that was on the Veracity in this, and I figured it out. Last time I was like, man, it looks really familiar. It has to be the same company that's making Elites, because they are the exact same cable guard, and I could care less. I mean, I don't give a shit. I think that's one of the best cable guards out there. You can actually move it a little bit, adjustment left and right horizontally. I think it's really, really nice and solid. And again, it's the exact same cable guard, but man, if it works, instead of trying to redesign something new, it's probably cheaper and more efficient to just, you know, resell and kind of get one from a different company. I like that. They have some really nice limb pockets on here. If you look up underneath, you'll see what I kind of like to see, which is kind of that bored out hole, something to help those limbs, you know, not move laterally and kind of keeps them in place, especially with these speed bows where there's going to be an absolute ton of pressure on that limb pocket. I like to see that. The rest of the limb pocket's really nice and sleek. You have these dampeners in between each limbs, which I love these dampeners. They're really nice, big, solid, kind of that gelatin type feel. I feel like they're some of the best ones out there. And then if you go down to this cam and E system, and we'll talk about this, we'll kind of dive into this a whole bunch. So at first glance, it does look complicated. It looks like there's a lot to it. I actually brought this into a bow shop the other day, and the bow shop owner's like, man, what is that? Don't let that deter you from this bow. And we'll go over it in just a second. But I think the more that you were to mess with this and the more you kind of dive into how it's working, it's actually a very simple system to tune and get the timing right. So at first glance, it looks like it has two module systems on either side of this, you know, elongated cam, which is it looks like an aggressive cam. And we'll do our single shot assessment here in a second, but any cam that takes that oval shape more over a spherical shape, you know it's gonna have a nice good hump at the end, and it kind of, you know, you can tell it's gonna be a little bit more aggressive, but that's where we're gonna get those speeds. So one of the modules is stationary, and then the other module is your adjustment for your draw length. And it actually adjusts in 1/4 inch increments, which I love, and we're seeing that more and more and more, so you can get that perfect feel to your bow. And I also love that because when you add the let-off backboards onto the string stop, you know, each one of those is taking a little bit off of your draw length. So if you do like to hold a little bit heavier weight, you can just add little 1/4 inch increments to your draw length, so you can draw length, you don't sacrifice anything in your draw length, but you can hold at the holding weight that you want. And I think that's also important if you're maybe getting to a point where you can't pull back as much as you can and you're having to drop down that draw weight, but you kind of want to get the most out of your bow, you can hold it a little bit heavier weight and then you don't have to sacrifice at your draw length. I like that. And I know that's something new to the Veracity in this one, and I like that. But the actual cable system, it has that bus tuning kind of system that it looks like, but instead of coming back down and just reattaching, that yoke actually splits and it attaches on the outside of the limbs to the axle. So this is obviously going to take off the load on the cam bearings and kind of stabilize that weight on either side. And even with the Spectra E, just looking at the bow, that made so much sense to me. So you have 3 anchor points for those cables. So in full draw, I think this bow is going to hold just as nice as that Spectra E. You know, it's going to help take away cam lean. It's also going to take the load off of those bearings, and it's going to kind of equal out that load and distribute it all across that axle. So we talked about it in the Veracity. I love the strings that come with these bows. They're a little bit slicker, and just to the feel, you can tell that they're made with kind of plastic instead of wax. They have a way of testing any part on the bow that shows weakness. So they'll run it through a program and they'll get back, hey, all of the points that are kind of like hot spots that will show if the bow has a little bit of weakness here, a little bit of weakness there. And you can tell that they have added little detailed bridges all through this bow to kind of strengthen it to the best of its ability. And I think that they put a lot of time and energy just redesigning this new. Because of the E system, I'm going to prematurely say I think it's going to be, you know, one of the best holding speed bows we've seen. I love the E system on the Spectra E. We'll see on this one. This one has a little bit shorter brace height. It's going to be a little bit more aggressive. I think it's going to get a little bit higher speeds, actually a significant higher speeds than the Spectra, but I think it's going to hold very similar. And that's what I'm kind of hoping here. So let's go ahead. We'll do our single shot assessment inside. I think this grip on this is, again, the kind of completion of what they've been working on. And you know, it's like if you can't decide on something, you still want to put out a bow, go ahead, you can kind of circle back to it. And I think they did with this. They finally established a nice grip that Darton is going to carry on from bow to bow to bow. But I like it. It's actually really nice, good feel to the, feel to your hand, and then it kind of has a nice slant to it. I prefer a little bit of a slant over a more vertical grip. So let's go ahead. Man, so Not nearly as much kick to the hand as I was expecting, which is good. The draw cycle is aggressive, and for me, I like more of a, that hump to be in the beginning and it kind of smooth out towards the end from my own injuries. This has a real good hump towards the end, and it lasts a little bit longer than I would like. It starts here and then you gotta kind of work through it. And because of those effort to work through it, it kind of dumps on you at the end a little bit. But again, you can tell that the arrows are coming off this thing hot. So, a give and take. You want a speed bow, you want to get the arrow speed up as much as you can. You're going to have to sacrifice here and there. And we talk about that all the time. And with this one, you're sacrificing in the draw cycle. And some people that doesn't matter at all. And then other people, it's like all they talk about. So that's just all preference. But I'll tell you what, the hold on this, very similar to the Spectra E. When you get this bow set up, like I mentioned, you have 3 different anchor points that distribute that load across that axle, and man, it just feels really, really solid. So getting it back is, you got to put some effort, but once you're back, yeah, that feels great. Oh, they hold so nice. And you've heard me talk about in the Veracity, what really matters. We could circle back to that over and over again, but what really matters is the hold, and that's really it. That's in the end, if it all comes down to it, the hold's what matters. And man, and I'll also mention that, Darton has patented tons of the cam systems that we see out there today from other companies, and this is the cam system that they decided, hey, we have all these different patents that we're putting out there. This is the one that we're going to keep, and that they haven't released it to to other companies. So this is the one that they feel is, on the top end, So again, it looks a little complicated, but man, once you get it, the timing's really easy because these cables where it splits just pop right off of that bearing. You can give them a couple twists. It's really, really simple to get the timing right. And then once it tunes, because of that load being distributed across that axle, it stays tuned. Let's shoot one more and then we'll go outside and we'll sling a whole bunch. I love the grip. I love the hold. It has a little bit of a pop to it. I think, surprisingly, not a lot of vibration in the hand. Some for a speed bow, but not a ton. This is a bow I don't think I'm going to be able to shoot it all day, but we'll shoot it as much as we can. Side, you can just kind of tell by the way they come off of it, even without seeing the flight of the arrow. I think this thing's going to be up there. So they say a real solid 342 on the IBO. I feel like Darton's just one of those companies, they're just not about bullshit. 342, it's 342. If it was 338, they'd say 338, So let's go ahead. We'll sling a couple. We got our 300 spine, 500 grain full metal jacket, 30 inches on the draw length, 80% let off, and 70 pounds. It was actually like 70.6. But let's fling a couple. That's 287. I have a feeling that this thing is going to climb just a little bit. I do love this new chronograph we got for the 23 season, and all the reviews, a little bit nicer, a little bit more consistent. I know that the Spectra E was probably one of the bows that this thing was running hot. I don't know if the light was coming in the window the wrong way or something, but it was running hot that day, and I admit it. So that was a little bit inflated number, but I think this one's a little bit better, a little bit more accurate, consistent. That's 293, and because of our new grading system, anywhere from 290 to 299, it's going to get the 9 out of 10, which would be the first bow for 2023 to get that 9 out of 10. But we'll shoot probably 5 just to give it a fair shake, and we'll take the average. That's a duplicate, so that's 293. Man, that is humming. 500 grains here. I think that 440 grain that we'll shoot in a second is just going to be... You can tell a bow has some strength. I think this one has some strength. I think it's going to pump that lighter grain arrow significantly more. 295, like I mentioned, I just had a feeling I think this one is just going to heat up and climb a little bit. Let's shoot one more, but as of right now, This is 9 out of 10 for the speed test, which is awesome. That's I feel like that's a great speed for a bow that holds this nice. So duplicate, that's awesome. So let's switch over. We'll do a 400 spine full metal jacket, 440 grains. You know, and we started doing this arrow when you guys mentioned that you wanted to see it. So if there's ever anything that you want to see or you want us to do differently, you can always leave it in the comments. And if it's within reason, we'll try to cater to some of that. You know, we love feedback. So somebody mentioned they want to see some different arrow weights so they have something to kind of compare to. And I said, oh, that's a good idea. So let's do 440 grains. I think this one's going to be 308, 313. Man, this is just, I'm telling you, you can feel it in the draw cycle. You know, that's not, I'm sure you can even see it on the camera how kind of harsh this draw cycle is, but for a bow that sets up like this, that's an incredible speed. So one more. That's 312. Man, that is absolutely humming. Awesome speeds. Let's go outside. Let's get after it. We'll shoot a whole bunch. On to the fun part. The day to shoot nice and brisk, hoodie, jeans. You can shoot all day. We'll shoot this as much as we can. It's a little bit stiff on the draw and hold. You put a little good amount of effort into it, but I'll shoot it as much as we can throughout the day. We'll go bore at 30, bucks at 35. Then we'll hop over to the gazebo, shoot all the way up to 50. We'll shoot several different shots on many different depths. Get a real good feel for the bow. So one more thing I forgot to mention when I was inside, and sometimes I do in those talking points, is I love this on top of the rest shoulder is kind of a laser etched line that goes from front to back to kind of help you set your rest left and right. I love that, and sometimes you'll see companies put them across the top of the riser right here so you can get it up and down vertically and then horizontally with a different one. I love that kind of stuff. It's those little bitty details that I like the most. Just anything that's helpful to the consumer. So let's go bore. And I think I will, like, it was dumping on me when I first, those first shots, and then your body naturally, you'll anticipate that. So that one was a little bit smoother because I think I just kind of anticipate that jerk. You can kind of adjust, let off your pull a little bit, and it kind of eases into it. So again, sometimes those things that stick out the most at the beginning, as you shoot a bow, it'll become more familiar and things will smooth out, and things that are really noticeable at the beginning might not be so much later, and you'll kind of see throughout the day. I think that draw will get smoother and smoother and smoother, and then as I get fatigued, it'll probably go back to kind of dumping on me. But let's go buck. I think, and the hold on these, and again, sometimes I do like a little quick shot where I'll get in full draw and I'll try to dial it in as fast as I can and pull the trigger. And this ease system, I think, dials in the fastest. I mean, you can get in full draw and immediately the pins settle down and it feels good. I mean, that's the truth. I think these things immediately set up really, really nice. Let's go the other buck. Man, I think, I don't think I would add anything to the let off. So you got those little backboards that kind of will add that 2 pounds to your level. I think the holding weight on this is just fine as it is. Being a speed bow, I kind of like it right where it is. I wouldn't adjust that at all, and I wouldn't mess with those. Because even at full draw, there's a little bit of effort you gotta exert to keep it back. But man, these arrows, it's like, that speed bow feel. Like these arrows are just on a string. I mean, there's no arc, they're zipping. Let's step across. We'll do some from the other side. All right, we are going to climb the whole ladder today. So we'll start here at that 20-yard turkey, and then it's just 5-yard increments all the way up to 50. Man, this draw to me, I kind of like a little bit of stiffer pull in the beginning and then it to ease up. When it's so, you know, so much effort towards the end, that's where my shoulder injuries come into play. And man, this is tough for me to get back. It's set at 70 pounds. You know, the draw force curve on this bow, you know, you want it to peak out and just hold, you know, you hit that peak draw weight just for a moment and then start letting off. But this one, I mean, I think the whole back third of the draw cycle, you're pulling 70 pounds, which makes it feel like it's more. It takes a good amount of effort to get through there. More than, I would say more than I'm used to. I mean, it's a, you know, and some guys don't mind that. Some guys are like, God, give me as much speed as I can. You know, give me a heavy arrow with as much speed as I can. I'll pull back whatever it takes. And that's just preference, you know, and if that's something you're willing to do, that's fine. I think my style of hunting has led me to go, you know, my style of hunting paired with the injuries I've had in the past has led me to kind of more of a comfort style pull, you know, with a little bit of sacrifice in the feet per second, and that's kind of what I've gone with. But you know, everyone's different. So let's go the buck at 30, and then we'll jump up to some of those longer. But I'll tell you, the hold on these bows is incredible. For a speed bow, you know, that's shooting the feet per second it gets, the hold on this is awesome. I mean, it's just these, and I think it's the E system. I think it's the 3 different anchoring points of that cable. That just makes sense to me. It really balances out nicely. So as we get up to some of the longer range targets that we're on now, we'll see if that holds up. You know, that my initial assessment of that hold, this is kind of where it will pan out. Let's go gray wolf at 35, and then we'll jump to that black bear at 40. I mean, it's just immediate, an immediate dial down of the pins. And like I mentioned earlier, you're actually having to put some good effort into that. You know, I don't like a super relaxed holding weight. You know, I don't want to be too relaxed. I like it a little bit tense, kind of that perfect balance, so that if I do get caught in full draw, it's not something that's too stressful, but I don't like to get too relaxed. I think it has a really nice in between. So let's go black bear, and then we'll do our full draw stall. All right, so now on to Paddington. That little bear will hold for 1 minute, and we'll put a shot on him. 1 minute, it doesn't sound like a lot, but hey, a minute hold. And I would say most of the time when you're in the field and you get out of your season, you're like, God, I had to hold for like 5 minutes. It probably was more like a minute. I think honestly the longest time I've ever had to hold for was like 2.5 minutes, and I ended up just, you know, bringing my bow down and spooked a deer. You know, I couldn't hold it anymore. So let's go 1 minute. All right, so it's a well-placed shot on Paddington. Even after a minute, I mean, I'm surprised. Most speed bows, you get 30 seconds into a, you know, kind of a hold, they immediately start shaking on you. You feel the bow those cams wanting to turn back over. This is probably one of the nicer ones I've seen. So comparable to all of the other speed bows that we've done, this one probably holds at full draw the steadiest for the longest. But let's go up the hill, and I'll shoot a good amount of shots on this elk. We'll kind of get after it for a second, and then we'll. I don't know, it feels just, you know, sometimes you gotta kind of fight to get the pins to dial down. This one it does it for you. You know, it settles down on its own, and then as you expect it to start you know, for them to start moving again. They don't. They just kind of stay right there. And I'm not putting a ton of concentration and effort into holding. I mean, these are kind of just coming off of here. I'm just going to kind of let them fly a little bit. I mean, I think, you know, the reps said that they're starting to see more and more target archery guys use their bow, and they're not just using it, but they're winning with it. And they seem to really love this E-system. I think that says a lot, you know, when you know, when it's coming from kind of competition guys. Let's go one more. I love it. I absolutely love it. We're gonna shoot. We'll just keep shooting. It's so nice out today. It's like perfect for this. This is like the reason why I did this, to kind of give myself an excuse to just shoot away. And we'll get after it, and then we'll circle back tonight, and we'll put a grade on this guy. I'm gonna say it's my favorite of the 3 bows that we've done for Darton. And the Spectra E just made it to my top 5 of 2022. So, and I think the reason being new riser design, just a whole new bow. This thing just looks awesome. I love the E system. That was probably my favorite thing on the Spectra E as well, which was just a little bit more incomplete bow. I thought this one with the new grip, the new riser design, same cam, same cam system, not same cams. This thing, those speeds that it was cranking out is awesome. I do love the hold on this. The draw cycle was not my favorite just due to my own injuries and my own personal preferences. But I love this bow. I think this is a great product from them. I think it was 292 and 294 on the speed with my 500 grain arrow, 30-inch draw length, 80% let off, you know, at 70 pounds. So it got the 9 out of 10, which is kind of a new factor into our grading system. Anywhere from 290 to 299, 9 out of 10, 300 and above, you get that full 10 out of 10. So 9 out of 10, fastest bow that we've done in 2023, good start. So quality, durability, I do like that it is, you know, this higher grade aluminum that is a little bit tougher, doesn't have as much flex to it. I think with the cam systems, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I do love that they added the cable guard on there, really nice cable guard, like I mentioned earlier. You know, these strings, you know, nice durable strings as well. You got this 775 aluminum riser, teetered 8 and 9, but I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Appeal 9 out of 10. I love this one. I love the way it looks. I think they did a great job on this, just kind of a little bit more detail in the design. This thing is just popping. You got a 9 out of 10 on the technology solely because of the cam system. I think this is one of a kind. They patented it, you don't see it anywhere else, and I think it performs, again, at first glance, maybe a little bit complicated looking, but the more you kind of assess it, figure it out, mess with it, tune it, the more you'll realize that it makes a lot of sense on why they decided to go with this and why it does factor into the performance so much. So 9 out of 10 there. 8 out of 10 on the actual performance. I think this was one of the best holding bows that we've gotten here, not just for speed bows. I love this system. I think it's top holding bows you can get. And I think I have a good, you know, I can give a good perspective on that. I think it's really hard to see the little bit of variance in how a bow holds until you shoot an absolute ton of them. So when I tell you that this thing wants to dial in immediately, you know, you would have to shoot a ton of bows for you to notice, you know, that like again, that little bitty variance from one bow to the next. You know, because it's not much, but this is top. This is the top end. This bow holds right from full draw right till you let the arrow go. This thing wants to dial in really nicely. The Spectra E, maybe I could hold it for a little bit more if I would have done that full draw stall in there and maybe placed a little bit better shot. But as you just saw in Paddington, it was a well-placed shot at a minute for a speed bow. I don't think you can get much better than that. But I think that's something that I can give you. You know, I think that's something I can bring to the table, is that, you know, the comparison of how each bow holds, and this one is just a fantastic, especially for a speed bow. So, but I think the 8 out of 10, what dropped it again from that 9 to that 8 is just the draw is, to me, brutal. Somebody else might be like, oh, this is cake, this is like what I'm used to. For me, it's just, man, that's a tough draw. I would prefer to go with something a little bit less aggressive. But I like the speeds that it was getting. So you got a 43, gives you a nice 86. Add 2 for the price. It's like right at $10.99, which is again still like we're talking about a couple $100 less than that next nice flagship bow. And in a time like today, we're kind of like dollars are counting. You know, everything kind of counts. That might be a huge factor into somebody's decision making. You want the top end bow for the best price. I think Darton is the way to go. I think that's what they're putting out here, and I think that's going to be their little niche going forward. So you get a +2 for that makeup points, 88 out of 100. Awesome grade for this bow. Can't wait to see what Darton sends me next. Their customer service is awesome. Couldn't speak more highly of the rep that I deal with personally, Corey. He's been fantastic, answers all my questions, a pleasant person to deal with, and seems to be extremely knowledgeable of bows and the bows that they're creating. So if you found anything in this bow review helpful, make sure you follow us on Instagram. We got lots of bows already out that you can view. We got lots to come. We got the Basic Bowman series out, which you can help. You know, if somebody that you know is interested in buying their first bow, point them to that Basic Bowman series, and that'll kind of set them in the right direction. You know, kind of get their feet wet before they go make that purchase. And then follow us on Instagram. That's where you're going to find little updates on everything that we're putting out next, and you can kind of follow along. Above all, make sure you get your reps in. Practice is everything. We'll see you next Saturday.